This is Western Canada's wrestling radio show.
You're going to have fun tonight.
Welcome to McGuire on Wrestling.
A dazzling wrestling exhibition.
Here is Mike McGuire.
I love professional wrestling.
Well, hopefully it's warm wherever you are listening. Maybe for those of you listening in Australia, it's not a problem for you. But here in North America, it's a bit of a conversation this week. Welcome to a winter edition of McGuire on Wrestling, talking about everything in the world of pro wrestling, but not just what you see on TV. In fact, a lot of business discussion going on around the industry and a lot of big events going to be happening in the next week or so. WWE's Royal Rumble, less than a week away. This Saturday, coming from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Does that change creative plans? Does that change what could be happening as far as match outcomes go? We're going to talk about that a lot because I have a prediction. Call me crazy if you want, but I think we are going to have a new WWE champion this Saturday in Riyadh, and I think his name is Sami Zayn. We'll talk about that. We'll also welcome your thoughts if you want to give them in on the Celebrate Wrestling Facebook page. That's where we do everything online. CelebrateWrestling.com is where you can find the home for this show, as well as our other podcasts that go every week for you. The Alternate Commentary Table posts every Saturday. That's from our friends Mitch and Dimitri out of Calgary. And I'm happy to say that Andy and Stefan with Legends and Champions are going to be coming back this week with an all-new episode looking back on the life and times of Eddie Guerrero, still one of the most talked about wrestlers today. Many, many years after his passing, they're going to explore that as well as, of course, go through Guerrero's career, his ups, his downs, and everything in between. If you're new to this show and you're listening to us on the radio on stations like AM 1150 out of Southern BC or CKXU-FM out of Southern Alberta, welcome. I promise you, not just nerdy wrestling talk, but some interesting conversation. And we're going to talk to some people who are involved in the business in different ways. Of course, our weekly contributor, Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer, going to be joining us to talk about some of the big storylines. And also, I'm going to run by Dave my theory as to why Sami Zayn is going to leave the Rumble as WWE champion this weekend. But we cover pro wrestling at all levels, and we're going to take you into the Southern BC interior, Kelowna as a matter of fact, where Thrash Wrestling has a show coming up next month where they're working in conjunction with the Kinsmen. It's a special fundraiser event, and Nick Szalanski, promoter of Thrash Wrestling, going to join us to talk a little bit about their origins and how they went from literally a backyard wrestling promotion, becoming legit, and now working with some great corporate and community partners out there. All of our programming comes to you absolutely free, no paywall, but we do ask if you'd like to support the show, support the efforts here. New t-shirts are up at the Celebrate Wrestling Facebook page. You can also see some new ones that will be coming up later on this week. So we've got a couple more to add to the collection, and there's a special pre-order where you can save money on them right now. You get $5 off if you order before February 28th. So lots of time, and those new shirts will be coming this week as well. If you'd like to donate by PayPal, you can do that as well. CelebrateWrestling.com. This show is 100% listener supported, so we thank you for that. Again, all our show info is at CelebrateWrestling.com. This week on the show, Mother Nature goes 2-0 against WWE and AEW as far as some travel plans are concerned. TNA Wrestling's second week on AMC sees the return of a star released by AEW. Has Shinsuke Nakamura actually ruined the outcome of AJ Styles' match against Gunther at the Royal Rumble? Speaking of the Rumble, we'll go through some of our picks as to who could win what. Plus, again, you're going to find out more about BC's Thrash Wrestling, one of the great Western Canadian independent promotions out there. While I got you for just a second here, I also wanted to direct you to something that myself and my broadcast partner on my morning radio show are doing here in Lethbridge, Alberta. There's an event called the Polar Plunge that takes place every year. And what it is people from all across southern Alberta, where I am, and really all across Canada and around the world, anywhere that's cold, they've been doing this in support of Special Olympics. I've done it before. And when I did it, it was in Regina, Saskatchewan. It was literally one of the coldest places on earth that day. I think maybe somewhere in Siberia. may have had us beat. So who knows what's going to happen? The weather could be nice and balmy. It could be incredibly frigid and cold. We don't know, but it is coming up on February the 7th. So you've heard him on the show before. My guy that does news, Justin Goulet, he is going to be joining me at the event. I'm emceeing, and he's going to be there covering it for our newsroom. However, we've already set the goal that if we raise $500 Canadian, and we're already at $375, so this is going to happen. $500 Canadian. After I'm done emceeing, which is usually about an hour and a half, 2 hours in the cold already, I will jump into said water. Okay, now, if we get $1,000 by the time it's time to jump in, Justin will also jump in, and this is where it comes in interesting for you Celebrate Wrestling and McGuire on Wrestling listeners. If you chip in another $500 on top of that, so $1,500 Canadian, all going to Special Olympics, then we will do it dressed as wrestlers, okay? I've got enough gimmicks and enough gear. We can make it happen. I'm not saying it'll be the best-looking crew, but we are willing to make that sacrifice to be that much more ridiculous in support of Special Olympics. Now, you might know Special Olympics just as the program that gives people with intellectual differences an opportunity to play sports and get together in the community. That's part of it. But one of the reasons why I've been behind this cause for so long is a program they do every provincial and regional games called Healthy Athletes. And what this is a program that gives access to these athletes for medical care, for dental care, for eye exams, checkups, things like that. And what really opened my eyes to how important this is that there have been cases where a simple eye exam or a dental exam or something has discovered that the person may be suffering from undiagnosed type 1 or type 2 diabetes. And in extreme cases, there's even been people who have had diseases like leukemia and other types of cancer discovered because of these Healthy Athletes programs. So it really is an opportunity to not just support something that feels good in the community, but you're literally also having the opportunity to save and change some lives. So if you'd like to support Justin and I, the link is on the Celebrate Wrestling Facebook page. Look for the Polar Plunge. It's a picture of yours truly with the big words, "Freezing for a Reason." Some of my favorite things I've been a part of are Special Olympics events, and you're really making a real difference beyond just the feel-good of games in your community. All right, let's get to some pro wrestling news here. We take a look at some of the biggest stories every week, slap them together in a nice little package we call the 5 Count.
You want to hear that breaking news?
Well, winter weather caused a lot of problems for both AEW and WWE this week. In fact, you may have heard earlier on that on Wednesday, Dynamite was extended to a Dynamite and Collision taping, which was great news for the fans in Orlando that night. However, the Saturday Collision show was supposed to take place in Arlington, Texas. Because of snow that was set to hit Arlington, as well as flight complications across the U.S., they decided to move the Collision taping to Dynamite. And while fans in Arlington have been given refunds for their tickets, there's no news yet as when they will return to the Lone Star State. By the way, shout out to McGuire on Wrestling listener James Weaver, who is in Texas and hopefully surviving the snow down there.
This is Saturday night's main event. We are in frigid Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Minus 7 degrees. It feels like it's minus 13.
Well, that's minus 22 Celsius to the rest of planet Earth. Feels like minus 25, i.e. do not go outside.
Well, as Canadians, it was hard not to chuckle a little bit when we heard Stephanie McMahon and Michael Cole both talk about the frigid Canadian north of minus 22 Celsius. Or minus 7 Fahrenheit. Most of us were like, it's January in Canada. What did you expect? Still, WWE has had a history of touring Canada in the winter because they know that Canadians will show up. Unfortunately, flights were causing complications for their side of wrestling as well, as several talents, announcers, and other crew were unable to make it to Saturday night's main event. And we've seen several tweets and Instagram posts from talent that they've been packed into vans, buses, and whatever they could to drive from Montreal to Toronto for this Monday night's Raw. We wish them all the best in the safest conditions on the roads. That is no joke. A couple weeks ago, Trey Miguel appeared as part of the Rascals in AEW, and while that faction is set to make their in-ring debut in AEW, they won't be doing it with Miguel, as he would be released from the company shortly after his debut. Now, there's been a lot of online speculation as to why Miguel was released so quickly, some targeting comments he made back in 2020 online. Nevertheless, it seems many more are standing behind Miguel, including TNA Wrestling, who instantly re-signed him and offered him the chance to come back with a rousing endorsement.
I am proud to announce that we here at TNA Wrestling are thrilled to welcome Trey Miguel back to the family. TNA Wrestling has officially re-signed Trey Miguel.
Interestingly enough, Miguel was featured in a Feast or Fired match and now carries a briefcase where we'll see what his future holds moving forward.
Whether it's nostalgia, call it what you will, respect, there's a lot of Hollywood Hulk Hogan fans here in Skydome tonight.
Well, if you're a collector or a fan of rare pieces of memorabilia out there and have a few $1,000s lying around, you might want them for this. One of the boots that Hulk Hogan wore in Toronto's Skydome for his match against The Rock is up for auction right now on a website called Golden. Now, even in early bids, the boot is already up to $28,000 US as of production time of this week's show. Why is that so significant? Well, because there's still just under 2 weeks left on the bidding for the boot. Now, if you've ever been a buyer on eBay or even been in a live auction before, you know sometimes these things can get a little crazy, especially if the bidding starts high early. There's no idea what the boot could fetch, although a previous pair of Hogan's boots did sell for over $66,000 on the website. Those boots are believed to have some residue of Hogan's blood and were signed saying that he wore them in Madison Square Garden. Seems like the perfect time to mention once again, if you'd like to support this show, there's a PayPal link at celebrateWrestling.com. Anyway, now there's a previous photo of Hogan holding what appeared to be the right boot from this pair, so assuming that's still in the family's possession, the boot up for grabs is the left boot from WrestleMania 18. I wonder if they'd be willing to work like a buy one, get one deal. Probably not. And a reminder, this Monday night's Raw emanates from Toronto, and then the entire crew heads down to Saudi Arabia for the Royal Rumble, for those of you looking to watch it live on Netflix internationally, as well as on ESPN in the U.S. The show is set to start at 11 a.m. Pacific time. That is 2 p.m. Eastern time or noon, right here in Alberta, where our show is based. The show is on Saturday and will emanate from a stadium that's been specially built just for WWE, just for this event. Construction photos of the stadium have been making their way online over the past couple months here, and the most recent ones include giant signage and props for superstars like Roman Reigns and L.A. Knight. In addition to those Rumble matches, the card will be headlined by Sami Zayn challenging Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. The only other match being advertised for this show is the career-threatening match between AJ Styles and Gunther. As you may recall, WWE's Survivor Series from this past fall was also a 4-match card, so we'll see if anything else gets announced on Raw or SmackDown this week. Coming up, a bit of a conversation with Thrash Wrestling promoter Nick Szalanski, who has a special show coming up to the Kelowna area this February, and Dave Meltzer and I go through some of the biggest headlines in wrestling this week, plus your thoughts on whether or not Sami Zayn leaves Saudi Arabia as the WWE champion after this weekend's Royal Rumble.
This is McGuire on Wrestling. More than just McGuire on Wrestling, the Celebrate Wrestling podcast feed. Andy Evans and Stephen Bennett take you back to some of wrestling's biggest moments on Legends and Champions.
For many a seasoned fan conjures images not of glory, but of a truly spectacular failure.
My brother testified.
Laugh along with Mitch and Dimitri on the alternate commentary table.
Hello, Triple A Plumbing, Spiro speaking.
Oh, sorry, I was looking for quadruple A.
Celebrate Wrestling wherever fine podcasts are carried. It's time for the Wrestling Observer Insider with Dave Meltzer, McGuire on Wrestling.
Well, here to talk me off my ledge or shatter my dreams, one of the two, Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer. Dave, how are you, first of all?
I'm good.
Okay, so let me explain that comment because I haven't given you anything other than we're going to talk about Sami Zayn. Tell me why Sami Zayn will not leave the Royal Rumble as WWE champion this weekend.
I don't expect it to happen, given that they just shot an angle last night where Drew McIntyre was involved with Cody Rhodes and Jacob Fatu. So that tells me that that's the direction. It's
right.
Jacob Fatu and Drew McIntyre. And if there's no world title, there's no point in that direction. So they There doesn't seem to be. I mean, they could do it and then switch it right back to Drew a week later. You can always do that, but I don't.
See, this is what I'm thinking is going to happen. Is exactly what you just said there, because Sami,
you can do that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
Sami is undefeated in Saudi Arabia, right? I mean, the guy goes over. He's the biggest deal there, next to any. If The Rock were to show up or something like that, maybe. But literally, Sami gets like the biggest response.
He's a big deal there. Yeah, he is.
Are they going to risk letting those fans down? Their upcoming WrestleMania and having a new stadium and everything else built for them on having Sami lose this title and disappointing the kingdom?
I don't think that they're going to care. And you got to remember that even though he's really popular now, they spent 4 years or more with him banned. You know what I mean? It's and the only reason that it turned over was because he was such a big star that they just decided that, okay, we better not ban him. I mean, because they made it very clear he was not welcome. And he made it clear that he would never go. And
that was due to, and we don't want to get too into geopolitical here, but Sami is of Syrian descent, even though he's Canadian, is of Syrian descent, and Syria and Saudi Arabia were at each other for the longest time. They stopped, and that's when he was able to come and perform again. So and also because he got over it, which was I think a real big part of it was that when he was a middle guy, it was like we don't want him, and then all of a sudden when he became a star. It was like, hey, how, whatever. And then it was like the story of, this was all a misunderstanding. We never banned him. You know what I mean? Right.
All a misunderstanding.
Sure.
Somebody said something, and it's like, yeah, but for all these years, nobody told you that it's a misunderstanding. So it's like one of those things where they're all trying to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Pretend it never happened and it was all a misunderstanding as opposed to, we didn't want this guy in our country, but now that he's a star, we're okay with him to be in this country.
Well, I don't know, man, because I still feel that we've seen these Saudi shows do a lot of things that were, quote, not canon, right? We've seen some, and I remember the first time we saw something that actually kind of did make sense was when Bray Wyatt won the championship over there. And that made sense to storylines. That was something that kind of shocked a lot of people. People were talking about it. So from a creative standpoint, everything you explained could happen in my mind. And I think there's a good chance it's going to happen where Sami's going to win, or maybe at the worst case scenario, there's some screwy finish where Sami wins the match but doesn't get the title for some reason. I don't think they would go disqualification, guys. I just don't know. Whenever they do these shows, it always seems they work extra hard to appease the crowd. They brought in names nobody knew about. They did everything they could to pander to that crowd for years. And this time they have, like you said, a legitimate star in Sami Zayn of Arabic descent, which is something they've been waiting for, something they've been wanting because they need to appeal to this big money client. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Okay, I'm not saying that either.
It is a big money client. That's true. I mean, I'm not saying they're carrying the company, but they're probably going to be $175 million in revenue from Saudi Arabia this year. You know what I mean? It's like it's not an insignificant number. So they have a lot of say so. But I think that the go home happy is going to be the Royal Rumble, which, although the thing with the Royal Rumble, if you really want to get down to it, is that if it's going to be the winner facing Punk, it'll probably be a heel. If it's going to be the winner facing McIntyre, obviously it'll be a baby face, which could be Cody and it could be Jacob.
Where does Braun Breaker fit in all that?
He could win.
Well, I mean, everyone can win.
Yeah. I mean, no. I would say if you're going to ask, I would say the favorites are probably Braun Breaker, Gunther, Cody Rhodes, and Jacob Fatu. Those would probably be the four favorites. Yeah.
Well, okay. So just before we get on to the Rumble here, because that is also our big conversation this week, obviously, but I just go back to, and I was explaining this to the lady friend the other day because she's been getting used to all this, right? You know what it's like. Someone gets with you, they got to learn about wrestling whether they want to or not. But so I was explaining to her how when they first started the Saudi deal, right? Like the the Kingdom wanted. What do they want? Like Yokozuna and the Ultimate Warrior and all this. And like,
right. They wanted these dead guys, so they had to bring back facsimiles. Yeah.
So they had like the reasonable fact. This time you've got someone legitimate who, like, love or hate it. And personally, I mean, I'm always cheering for Sami Zayn. I've loved the guy forever, but it's one of those things where you've got something here, even if it is a short-term thing. If they were ever going to do it, they should have done it in Montreal last time.
They should have done it in Montreal years ago.
Right. Hold on. And we had this conversation. They should have done it in Montreal last time.
They absolutely should have done it in Montreal years ago.
So then this is the last gimme, isn't it? This has to be a gimme for them.
I don't know. You know, I mean, they whatever their plans were, I mean, they just ripped up plans. So I don't know if the new ones are now really. I mean, you can kind of see some. Well, I mean, I do know that they're doing a 3-way, but that doesn't mean that, you know, it doesn't mean Sami can't get a week as champion. You know, you can always do that.
He can get a month as champion the way they do it these days. I mean, the space between Rumble and Chamber and Mania is so far too now, right? Like
he could absolutely do Royal Rumble to Chamber, which is a month. He absolutely could do that. Yes.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just a matter of you know, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just Paul Levesque. You know, it's just his opinion, and you know, I mean, I'm pretty good with Paul Levesque when it comes to like his mentality on things. I don't think he'll do it, but the thing is at some point they do have to have Sami Zayn win, okay? Because they promised it for too many years. They'll never give him a real title run, but I do think that they'll have him win a title at one point.
I get what you're saying, because on what they're doing and what we see now with how TKO operates, right? They're going for the marquee names. They're going for the big shots. I mean, Cody Rhodes comes in the ring and declares for the Royal Rumble. Roman Reigns gets this giant edit package. Roman has declared for the Royal. Doesn't even have to say a word, right? Like, it's this giant, massive piece. So they're definitely, you can see how they build certain guys and girls versus others here. But I think if they were ever going to do it, like I said, it should have happened in Montreal, but this is the last gimme. So maybe it's the Canadian in me, maybe it's the Sami Zayn fan in me, or maybe it's the guy that just sees them looking at the title going like, look, we can use this thing to make Saudi happy. So when we get WrestleMania, they're even happier when we come.
They could. If put it this way, if the people in Saudi Arabia asked for it, they'd get it. There's too much money, but I don't know that they're going to ask for it. But if they just said, we want this title change, they would get it 100%. That's not even a debatable point.
Forget your WWE Unreal. We got to figure it out right here.
No, I'll tell you, if Turkey Al-Sheikh went to Nick Khan and goes, we want Sami Zayn to win the title. He's winning the title, and there's not even a question about it. But so it's up to Turkey Al-Sheikh. In the end of the day, when we talk about final boss, when it comes to boxing, MMA, not so much MMA right now, but when it comes to boxing, he's the final boss. When it comes to wrestling, he could be the final boss, but he's not, because he's never exercised that power, but he has the power to do it.
If he shows up at ringside with his own custom belt, then we know what's happened. But
yeah.
All right, we're talking to Dave Meltzer. This is McGuire on Wrestling on the radio and online. Again, I'm calling it now. Sami Zayn, brush with the championship at least this weekend. We'll see how that shakes down. Let's talk about the Royal Rumbles proper here. We were already throwing names out as to who could win moving forward. There's also people thinking that maybe Sami doesn't win the match but wins the Royal Rumble, which I don't
think so. I don't think so.
Yeah. Sami in Vegas, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so on that one. Because that would put him in a singles main event against Drew or maybe Jacob or Cody. I don't think that that's the WrestleMania match.
I'm going to throw a couple names at you as well. We already talked about Braun Breaker, somebody who I think is already proving his worth in the short time that he has been now a regular on SmackDown. Trick Williams.
Too early.
You think so? When he was in that match on Saturday night, I was thinking this guy could own it. This guy could take it.
I think it's too soon. I don't see him winning it. I mean, he had to use the trunks to beat Rey Fenix. Not that matters, but I mean,
yeah, but he also didn't eat the pin. Damian Priest did.
Yeah. Well, I knew Damian Priest would take the pin. They weren't going to pin Trick in the first 3 weeks of him being on the brand. That's true.
Right.
It was a really good match, but it was more the other guys than him. I mean, he's probably, as far as WWE goes, as far as not that bell to bell means a lot, but it means something when it gets to the high top of the card. And he's below average bell to bell. You know, I mean, like, he didn't have a good match with Rey Fenix, and that's almost impossible. And then his second match was average, you know, or so, maybe below. So I don't know.
Just continuing to look at what's going down on the roster here. I mean, they're talking about Cody Rhodes and three-peating. They're starting to really push that storyline as well. Do you think Cody is the guy that could take it all the way?
Yeah, it's possible. I just know if I'm booking, Cody wins the Chamber and doesn't win the Rumble. That's how I would do it.
That would make the Rumble more interesting, I suppose, overall. Because fans react. If it's a foregone conclusion that somebody's going to win, then usually they react pretty negatively.
Yeah,
but then again, it's a Saudi crowd. So
it's a Saudi Arabia crowd, so it's not going to be the same as, like, say, a New York crowd. They'll be fine with whatever. They're not going to boo. They won't boo Cody winning. If it was in another city, they might, because I think they might want something different. And I think Cody winning probably doesn't help Cody. I think winning the Chamber's in Chicago. Would they boo him winning the Chamber in Chicago? It depends on who the other guys are, I guess.
Well, going over to the women's side of things, I'm kind of stuck right now when I'm watching the women's champions, because to me, it's kind of everybody's in a good spot right now, but it could also be turned up more. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like Stephanie Vaquer, Jade Cargill, both getting the titles to elevate them right now, I feel. Who is the big star to go after either of these two right now? I know right now they're pushing Raquel Rodriguez and Stephanie Vaquer. And Jade Cargill, I mean, Jade's, can't say virtually unopposed, because Jordan Grace is obviously the next in line here. They've been running this angle with her and Jade for a while.
But I don't see Jordan Grace walking in and win the championship. But again, like, Charlotte Flair could always be put in that spot. Rhea Ripley. I kind of expect Rhea Ripley to have a good shot. I mean, they could always put Liv as, I've seen Liv as the favorite to win the Rumble. So she didn't get the tag team title, so I could see that too.
So Liv Stephanie, maybe?
Yeah. Oh, I can see that. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I don't see Raquel beating Stephanie. I think that would be a mistake. But Rhea, Rhea and Stephanie, I could see them doing that, even though it's face, that doesn't matter. I could see Rhea. I mean, Rhea's the biggest star of all the women, and she hasn't had the title in a long, long time. So I could see them just going like, okay, she's not had this title in a long time. It's her turn,
Well, if we go by that big star mentality going into WrestleMania, like we talked about with the guys, I mean, Rhea would make the most sense, right?
Yeah, she's the biggest star of all the women, I think. Yeah.
Oh, it's not even close. I mean, even just watching Saturday Night's Main Event, when she came out, Io comes out, gets her great applause, and Rhea comes out, and the roof blows off the place. Like, it's It's apples and oranges, to say the least. Okay, well, that addresses most of the Royal Rumble, except for this one looming thing after they had their match on Saturday Night's Main Event, which I enjoyed. Shinsuke Nakamura had a post up that was called "The Diary I Wrote the Day Before the Match." He talks about how AJ told him, allegedly, that he was retiring at the Royal Rumble. Now, we have heard AJ say that he wants no pomp, no circumstance. You and I have bandied back and forth as to when AJ's retirement could be. Was this all a seed, do you think, or is this something that is actually going to be happening? What have you heard? What do you think?
I have heard nothing. So I've heard nothing.
Okay.
I was stunned at first when I saw this, because it's like Shinsuke Nakamura comes from Japan, and even in the United States, giving away the result of a big match, if you're in the company, would be considered a very, very bad thing. In Japan, it would be 10 times worse. So I'm thinking like, okay, it's like, this is like really bad. And Nakamura is not a 23-year-old guy. He's a 45-year-old guy. He's been in this business forever. I was stunned, absolutely stunned, when I saw him saying that. And then my thought is like, he's not that stupid. It's a work. But then they took it down. They made him take it down. Mm-hmm. So to me, that says that I think he did not realize that there was a stipulation of a match. He just thought, like again, I doubt he's watching TV every week. I don't think he probably knows the storylines. He probably knows that AJ is retiring, and they asked him, hey, AJ wants to do a last match with you. Can you do it? You're not, can you do it? You're doing it, right? He asked for it. And of course he did. And they had a great match. And I think that, like with Nakamura, I think that I don't think they went in there and go, oh, by the way, this is the stipulation of this match and blah, blah, blah. I think it was just AJ goes, yeah, I'm done at the Rumble. And he probably figured that, okay, he's done at the Rumble. Not really.
Well, apparently this conversation, according to the post, and I don't want to, quote it verbatim here because I don't have it right in front of me, but I did read it. And he said that this happened while they were on tour over in Japan. And this conversation, this was months ago at least, where he said, I'm retiring at the Royal Rumble. And I mean, for Shinsuke to not know the stipulation for AJ's match this weekend, I don't believe that. Like, that can't be a thing.
I do for sure. I mean, he's not most of the, if the guys are on tour, he's not on tour. He's not watching the TV. I'm sure I would be 80% sure he doesn't know. So, because if he knew, if he knew, there's no way he's saying it either way, unless they planted it, with him. And if they were going to plant it, I don't think it'd be with him. I think it'd be, with somebody else. So I think it was legit. The fact that they took it down, that they made him take it down tells me it's legit. So I figured that that was AJ's idea, is that, I mean, the only thing that surprised me is I just thought, like, if AJ was going to retire, I thought they'd probably do it in Atlanta so his friends could come, certainly not Saudi Arabia. You know what I mean? It's like his buddies that he grew up with, they're not going to Saudi Arabia to watch his last match. And you would think for your last match, you want all your buddies there. So that's the surprise. But no, I haven't. I think there's a pretty good chance I'll hear something by the end of the day. But that's how I read it. That he just made a mistake, and they told him to take it down, and he took it down. I don't think there's anything more to that. And I'm sure AJ told him because, I don't think AJ expects him to put it up, and I think that he just probably figures that everybody knows. So that's that.
If anything else, it did add some more intrigue for those of us that have seen it. And I already said this last night going into Saturday night's main event because I was watching with some of my family. And, I like to update them on what's going on because they were watching it. And I said, this could be his actual last go. And I'm actually more perplexed now. So I'm looking forward to it. As much as it's going to be a weird, different show for a lot of reasons, I think that I'm really looking forward to see what happens between AJ and Gunther. And if this is it, well, then I think we know who the first member of the 2026 Hall of Fame is going to be.
No, Stephanie McMahon's the first name in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, right. They did that already.
Yeah.
God, that was so long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, her and Dave Bautista. Just kidding. Is that ever going to happen?
Dave Bautista could be Dave Bautista. He's not. If he's, it depends on his schedule.
I guess. Big time.
John
Dave.
Cena, right?
That one feels a little too soon for me. I think
retired. That's when they do. That's how they do it. They usually do it right when you retire.
That's true. Stephanie McMahon, and then John Cena.
Yeah,
that's the order. Okay, well, let's get down to some other business here, Dave. Of course, AEW still chugging along here. I mean, not that it's a bad thing, but not a lot of news coming out of the AEW camp, at least from what I'm seeing. Are you hearing anything of interest other than, well, Powerhouse Hobbs apparently is gone now, for sure.
He's gone, yeah.
And, I mean, it seems kind of all quiet on the Western frontier.
They're just building their stuff. They're slowly, looks like they're slowly gaining some ground. But yeah, they don't have the pay-per-view till the middle of March, so there's no point in rushing things. I see like them doing like MJF and Brody King, which I feel is a match to give MJF a big match before he gets to the pay-per-view, because I don't think that's the pay-per-view main event. I think that watching it feels like the pay-per-view main event's the four-way with, MJF, Kenny Omega, Swerve, and Adam Page. Or they'll do a three-way with those three, and then the winner goes, which if it was me, I would prefer them doing a three-way on TV and having one guy in there rather than the four-way. We just had a four-way for the world title. You know what I mean? It's like, I like one-on-ones 90% of the time.
Lastly, Dave, I know you're not a huge wrestling collector. Like, I don't think you have a ton of memorabilia other than the stuff that you've kind of come across in your days. Like, do you have any rare, like, grail items in your collection there?
No, I certainly have rare videotapes.
Okay.
and DVDs. But I mean, as far as I'm not a collector of wrestling merchandise. No, I have the actual chair that Mickey Rourke sat in at WrestleMania.
Oh, really?
Yes, I do. I have.
How'd you get that?
He gave it to Frank Shamrock, and Frank Shamrock gave it to me for my birthday.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm not saying you would, But if any of this had a date with auction, you'd be competing against one boot from Hulk Hogan right now that is currently at $28,000. This is one of his boots from his WrestleMania 18 match. And there have been other boots and gear and stuff of his that have sold on this golden website for well over $60,000, but this still has 2 weeks on it. So the fact that it's this high now, do you know if there is like a highest price piece of wrestling memorabilia out there?
Isn't there some Hulk Hogan thing that went for like $100,000 not too long ago?
Okay, 1982 Wrestling All-Stars Hulk Hogan PSA 9 card, $132,000 is what's coming up here. Wow.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Well, Dave, I don't want to take too much of your time here today. We have some other things to talk about, but I do want to find out, of course, what you've been writing about in the Wrestling Observer newsletter. What can you tell us about?
Well, see, the new issue, we previewed the show from last night in the Rumble. Big story on Bobby Duncombe, who was a big star in the 70s, early 80s. What other things did we talk about? The CMLL and AEW weekend from last weekend, which was huge. Not just business-wise, but there were so many great matches.
And for those that name might sound familiar, if you grew up watching like WCW in the 90s, we're not talking about his son, Bobby Duncombe Jr., who passed away back in 2000. This was, in fact, his father, though, and
this was his
passed
father
away recently.
He was a lot bigger star than he was, actually.
Yeah.
His father was a big star football player, teammate of Terry Funk. So, and the Funks got him into wrestling after it was interesting because I didn't know this. I just remember he was a football player who went into wrestling, but he actually started wrestling right after his senior year of college, before he was picked in the NFL and before he went to the NFL. So I always thought he played NFL, he played CFL with the BC Lions, and then he went into wrestling, but he actually was wrestling prior to that. He would wrestle in the off season. I don't know if he was cut or whatever, but his run with the BC Lions ended, and he only played in a couple games there. And then he was full-time pro wrestler from 69 on.
Well, there you have it. A little bit of history on Bobby Duncombe Sr. and more in the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Appreciate you, Dave. We'll talk to you next week after the Royal Rumble.
Okay, have a great week.
Well, still to come, I've got a bunch of dates across Saskatchewan and Alberta coming up where I'll be working with some pro wrestling companies and another company that's out there, which I'm hoping to see in person soon. You're going to meet the promoter of, Nick Szalanski from Thrash Wrestling in southern British Columbia. They've got a big show hitting Kelowna and following up in Penticton as well, how some Alberta talents have been a part of the show and more, plus some of your feedback as to Sami Zayn's chances of winning the WWE Championship this Saturday at the Royal Rumble. Hang on.
This is McGuire on Wrestling. McGuire on Wrestling, Western Canada's wrestling radio show.
Brett the Hitman Hart, how are you, sir?
I'm very good.
Now spanning BC, Alberta, and Saskatchewan.
MVP.
It's good to be back with you, Mike.
You can hear extended versions of the show, bonus podcasts, and exclusive interviews by following the Celebrate Wrestling podcast feed.
Killer Cross.
I'm actually enjoying this conversation.
Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever fine podcasts are downloaded. Just search and subscribe to Celebrate Wrestling. Welcome back to McGuire on Wrestling.
Well, as you know, the show expanded into the Okanagan Valley, and we're very, very thrilled about this because I've been following a lot of BC pro wrestling history for years, and joining us is the promoter, owner of Thrash Wrestling, which, did I read this right, 25 years now, Nick?
From backyard beginnings, yeah.
Wow. Nick Szalanski, you've got a big show that's going to be coming to Kelowna on February the 13th, teaming up with the Kinsmen for a Kin Wrestling Night, and then another show the week after in Penticton. But there's still people that are listening to this show and listening everywhere that are still learning about independent wrestling. And for those that don't know anything at all about Thrash Wrestling, tell us how you started and what brought you to where we are today.
Me and Michael Moore and a few others, we started backyard wrestling, but the name was coined 25 years ago, right? Thrash Wrestling. We had obviously got the attention of the local pro wrestling, which would have been ECCW, and Michelle Starr was running it at the time. And we were just like a thorn in their side, right? They were like, oh God, these guys are posting on our forums and stuff like that, their results. And they're like, we don't care. Michelle Starr spoke up and said, I'd work for them, because by this time we had rings and we had sponsors, we were selling tickets and whatnot. Soon after that, Starr came in, and then other pros started working with us, and they started training us up. And then from then on, we became professionally trained, and then started promoting pro wrestling. And then we've moved from a small town, Enderby, to Vernon, Kelowna, Penticton, Kamloops, and then all over the BC interior from that point on.
So this is interesting for me to hear, because I came up the opposite way, where, my first exposure to pro wrestling training was exactly the opposite, where you don't do the backyard stuff. I mean, what do you do when you're going to kill yourself, all this sort of thing. But what it sounds to me like is you guys started out kind of a choose your own adventure path to wrestling, but then eventually got adopted in by people who knew what they were doing. And I'm not saying you didn't know what you were doing, but you know what I mean?
We didn't.
It's such a different grade, though. You know what I mean?
Looking back, I wouldn't have done it like that if I was smarter. But I wasn't smarter. So it's just sort of the way it was. And there was not really much, this was the real early 2000s. So in a small town, we didn't really have many options, right? Like, we were still finding out what shows were coming to the Okanagan through hotlines and stuff like that, right?
Right. There's a certain guy who just retired as a 17-time champion who says, we're not the same people we were yesterday. So I think you're okay as far as that goes. To see what you guys have done with Thrash Wrestling now, and you do shows all over the place, all across British Columbia. A lot of the wrestlers I know from here in Alberta, where I'm based, and really across Canada. I mean, you got guys like Mentalo that come in and more. I mean, clearly you're putting on shows with increasing caliber talent, and you're bringing in some big names. In fact, this show on February 13th, a friend of the show, Chris Masters, is going to be part of the card. So you guys have totally gone legit over the last few decades here. And is the appetite pretty strong? Are they pretty voracious, or how has it been for you?
Yeah, they're pretty wild. I think in these smaller cities and small towns, they don't even watch wrestling, right? Most of them do, right? You've got all the wrestling fans that Kamloops can bring, but you also have a ton of people that have come to the shows and they're just like, this is awesome, so we're coming again, right? They like, oh, I don't watch WWE, but I watch Thrash Wrestling.
We have a mantra here with our podcasts and our radio shows, and that is we like liking things. So that's why we really focus on the good that comes out of pro wrestling here. Tell me about this show with Kin coming up on February 13th. Is this going to be a fundraiser? Is this just their wrestling night they're promoting, or what are they doing?
It's a fundraiser, yeah. The money that they raise goes to a number of community projects. They're putting it to good use, right? And it's to build money for the community, right? And we're happy to be a part of it. It's a good team up, and at least once or twice a year, we'll come together and collaborate on a wrestling show.
Did you ever think you'd be that accepted by the community, where organizations like Kin are coming to you? The guy that, like you said, started out as the backyard wrestler, and now your wrestling promotion is sought out to help enhance your communities that you're in?
I don't think I really thought of it going that far. Like I wanted it to, but I didn't know that would be involved. I didn't think the Kinsmen would ever contact me or any of these other community groups or anything like that. Like, when I first started, I didn't even know what the word promoting means, right? Like, somebody had literally sat me down and was like, okay, this is what you're doing. You're a promoter. You're putting posters up and you're booking venues, and like, that's called promoting. So I learned as I went. So yeah, I did envision expanding, but I had no idea what it would entail.
It seems to me that wrestling fans, or even just people in general that are showing up to wrestling shows, we're all in on the joke now. We're all just here to have a good time and watch something really cool happen. Do you feel the same way? Have you felt that shift?
Well, I'd like to think that's the way it is then. For me, like, I never ran Vancouver or I never ran Calgary. That's only where I hear you get more criticism and there's harder to please people, right? But I think fans are just coming to see pro wrestling because it's gaining a bit of momentum lately, just for the sake of going out and having a good time.
If you could impart one thing about Thrash Wrestling to anybody that has no idea what we're talking about right now, and what Thrash Wrestling means to you and why you feel people should check you out, what would you say to them?
I just think all pro wrestling is something you should check out, right? Like, I believe in it. This is the top of the line entertainment. This is the sport. This is what you should be watching, right? Like, I mean, I guess it just boils down to, if you believe in something, right, you got to go wholeheartedly into it, right? Especially if it's your business. So yeah, come check it out, because I don't think there's more entertainment for your buck, right? What you get at a wrestling show is far beyond what you're going to get in any other sport. And that's the bread and butter.
You know what you sound like to me, Nick? You sound like a promoter. I love it.
Yeah, well, I am. Yeah.
Nick Szalanski from Thrash Wrestling. Again, check them out, especially if you're listening in the southern BC area. Again, support independent wrestling wherever you are. But Nick, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Sami into the cover, hooks the leg. Sami's going to the Rumble. Sami's going to the Rumble.
Here is your winner, Sami Zayn!
Sami's done it. Sami's the #1 contender for the undisputed WWE title.
This is McGuire on Wrestling.
That was on YouTube internationally, Peacock in the United States. That was Sami Zayn winning the shot for this Saturday's Royal Rumble. Again, special start time, 11 Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern here in North America. It will be in Saudi Arabia. Sami Zayn now challenging for the WWE Championship against Drew McIntyre. I made my case to Dave Meltzer earlier, and I'm making my case to you as well. I still think Sami somehow, by hook or by crook, becomes champion, if even just for a minute. Why not? Well, apparently you have many reasons why not. I threw it up on the Celebrate Wrestling Facebook page, and some feedback already coming in. Not a lot of Sami supporters here. Again, if you want to leave your thoughts, look for Celebrate Wrestling --McGuire on Wrestling on Facebook. Join the group and leave your thoughts. Blaine started out by saying that Drew just won the title. This program has had no time to breathe. There's no chase, so I'm a no. I think Sami will be to this what Mick Foley was in 2000. Instead of a Contenders Elimination Chamber, though, I can see the title being defended in the chamber with Sami, Cody, Jacob, etc. as competitors. Yeah, but don't forget, Mick Foley, Mankind, was also a WWE champion, Blaine. Just throwing that out there, okay? Mike Marquardt says not this week, but he does win it this year. I just don't think he's part of one of the WrestleMania main events. He doesn't have to be. This is my whole thing. WrestleMania is still a long, long ways away. So there's time for him to win it, lose it, whatever. Martin, who was at Saturday night's main event. Thank you for posting those pictures, first of all, Martin. He says, I really hope he wins and completes his story in front of the Saudi crowd, which is like a second home to him. But with the rumored plan of Rhodes versus McIntyre for the championship of Mania, I doubt it'll happen. Yeah, but that's, again, Martin, you're thinking way too far into the future. We got this weekend coming up. Maybe I'm too optimistic. I don't know. Easy Cleghorn says, no, because he can't draw outside the Arab world or Canada. He is such a terrible talker. It doesn't even matter how great of a worker he is. Nobody has ever in the major markets especially bought a ticket because they were dying to see him. With all due respect, and you heard Dave himself say it, the Saudis in the next 2 years are putting in $170 million into this company for 2 shows. Now, if you look at the numbers, and I'm that nerdy that I will look at WWE's numbers before I say this, that's basically almost an entire quarter of revenue for them that they're getting off of these 2 shows. You don't think it might be worth putting a belt and making the crowd happy? I'm just throwing it out there. It's more than just drawing numbers in the U.S. these days. Hate to say, but it's true. Andy Evans from our own Legends and Champions says, not this time. Drew will be retaining through to Mania, then face Rhodes and Fatu in a triple threat. If anything, I can see Trick costing Zayn. Then they both enter the Rumble and do a double elimination spot. Yeah, I don't know about the double elimination spot, but I can definitely see Trick Williams being part of a screwy finish if they go that way. And then Joe Aguinaldo says, would love to see it because I like him, but no, he won't win. Oh, these 3 words that we love to not love. Wouldn't make sense. Well, there you have it. Some of your thoughts on Sami Zayn potentially being the WWE champion this weekend. You know what? Maybe you're all right, and I'm completely out to lunch here. I've always been terrible at predicting outcomes. I just like to wait and see what happens. But we will see what happens at the Royal Rumble this weekend. Enjoy your week of wrestling. We got Raw coming to us from Toronto on Monday night, and then it's the big weekend with anything possible at this Royal Rumble. Again, thanks for checking out our show. If you want to support, CelebrateWrestling.com is where you can make a donation, and also head to our Facebook page to find out how you can get your hands on one of these limited edition shirts that are going to be coming out soon. As for dates, I got a bunch. February 7th, Pure Power Wrestling in Lethbridge, Alberta. February the 15th, Calgary, Alberta for Dungeon Wrestling. Big tournament for the Stu Hart Heritage Championship happening there. Then it's off to Swift Current, Saskatchewan, Medicine Hat, Alberta, and back up to Calgary for CWE, Canadian Wrestling's Elite. Those dates are on the Facebook page as well. Until next week, my friend, as always, thank you so much for listening and letting me do what I do. Play safe, drive safe. Be seen ya.
McGuire on Wrestling. Online and on the radio. You can hear extended versions of the show, bonus podcasts, and exclusive interviews. Just search and subscribe to Celebrate Wrestling. Always free, always about wrestling. CelebrateWrestling.com.